The Sword of Thule. Previously on Romance at Sea. After bidding farewell to Dovarnenis, Alexander and Helena felt the call of the mountain ranges beyond the sea, not as an omen, but as memory, something the blood recognized before the mind had words to name it. The Alethea resumed her crossing, guided by a destiny written on no map, and when Brittany emerged from the horizon, the land received them not with indifference, but with recognition, the kind the earth reserves for those who carry roots within it that they themselves have yet to discover. The forest led the group to the spring of remembrance with the precision of something that knows its own purpose, and there, where the past opened like a sacred wound, Helena found Edith, sister of Tiphys, keeper of everything that had been promised and awaited for decades. In Amesbury, the village celebrated with mulled wine, braided breads, stories, and the dance of bloodlines finding their way back to one another. And as the bonfire flames rose toward the sky, the sacred mountains cast their shadow over everything, proclaiming that the next step would demand not only courage, but that rarer and more costly quality, the willingness to discover who one truly is when no illusion about oneself survives what is yet to come. In this new episode, we will discover together. On this new passage, Helena, Alexander, Makeda, Amina, and Edith will journey toward the sacred mountains, and the road they walk will be made not only of stone and mist, but of veils dissolving and truths that ask no permission to arrive. A song that no living soul in this age should know will rise from Helena's lips in the deepest silence of the night, awakening memories that belong to no ordinary time, summoning the attention of forces that have waited for generations for this exact moment. Together, we will cross the ancient veils that guard the chamber of the ancestors, where Judah, a 13-year-old child with centuries behind his eyes, will reveal truths about Ptolemy, about oaths buried in blood before any of those present were ever born, and about the origin of the sleeping Sword of Thule, that blade which chooses neither the strongest nor the wisest, but the most necessary. With every step, the path will test intention and purity with the precision of forces that cannot be deceived by words or appearances. And when the calling at last points toward the absolute north, we will understand that Thule is not merely a place on any navigator's map. It is the threshold where history decides who is worthy of carrying it forward. The awakening of the forgotten song. There was something different about the dawn of that day, and the difference did not come from the sun. The sky over Amesbury opened in shades of gold and silver with the specific quality of dawns that arise not out of habit, but out of intention, as if that light had been composed precisely for that day to illuminate precisely that departure. The village woke in a reverent silence that required no agreement. It emerged spontaneously, as all genuine forms of respect emerge from the inside out, without visible coordination. The five travelers, Helena, Alexander, Makeda, Amina, and Edith, prepared themselves with the precision of those who depart, knowing that what lies ahead will demand every ounce of attention they can bring. In the central square, the inhabitants formed a human corridor with the naturalness of inevitable things, not because they had been instructed to, but because the entire community felt, with that collective instinct that develops in places where memory is cultivated rather than discarded, that those who were leaving carried something that reached far beyond their own hopes. The children tossed petals of wildflowers with the generosity specific to those who have not yet learned to hoard beauty for themselves. It was a farewell. It was a blessing. It was, above all, the quiet acknowledgement that certain departures are also a form of fulfillment. And to you who accompanies this crossing, who steps with us into the sacred and the unknown, who feels the echo of these ancient legends resonate somewhere that precedes memory, I leave a simple but essential request. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your comments sharing what you feel. Every gesture of yours is not merely support, It is a flame lit in the bonfire that unites hearts across time, across mountains, and across the mysteries kept in the forgotten chambers of the world. In doing so, you make this journey possible. You blow into the sails of this destiny alongside us. The story continues, but it is your presence that keeps the fire alive and the veil between worlds thin enough for truth to pass through. Helena stopped at the edge of the village with that involuntary stillness the feet sometimes impose when the soul has not yet finished saying goodbye. She turned one last time. She looked at Amesbury, not with the eyes that photograph, but with the eyes that receive, that honor, that keep without trying to possess. Every house, every stone, every tree at the perimeter of the square seemed to pulse with something she could only call mutual recognition, the land watching her leave with the same attentiveness with which it had received her arrival. "This is not goodbye," she murmured, speaking more to the earth than to anyone present. "It is until soon, for those who understand that paths are circular." Edith placed her hand on her shoulder with a touch that had, in just a few days, become the language of one who has long tended something precious and now watches it go where it needs to go. "The land never forgets those who honor it, my niece, and when you return, it will receive you with everything it kept during your absence. It will have kept much." Helena turned to face the mountains. The warmth of Edith's words was fuel enough to move forward. The path began gently, winding through fields and groves of ancient oaks with the specific beauty of landscapes shaped not by geological accident, but by time too long to be measured in human generations. The sun rose slowly, casting shadows that danced between the trees with the autonomy of things that have a life of their own. Alexander walked ahead, following the map Edith had entrusted to him, but attending as well to what the map did not show, for he had learned over the course of that journey that the best paths are rarely drawn entirely on maps. Helena walked beside Edith, absorbing teachings about herbs, about birds, about stones that marked places where, centuries before, rituals had been performed by people who had walked this same path with this same weight of purpose on their shoulders. Every step was a lesson. Every breath was a deeper connection to the earth that pulsed beneath their feet with the regularity of a heart that never stops, but that is rarely heard. As they pressed forward and the terrain began to rise with the gradual seriousness of ascents that make no pretense of being easy, the vegetation shifted. The generous, open oaks gave way to pines that grew tall and close together, as if altitude had taught the trees that solidarity is a strategy for survival. The air grew cooler and thick with the scent of resin and moss, that specific combination found only in places where earth and sky stand close enough to hold a conversation. Edith pointed to a rock formation in the distance with the precision of one who knows it not as a geographic landmark, but as a presence. "The Gate of Winds," she said. "It marks the boundary between the common world and the sacred domain. From here forward, we walk in silence, with open hearts and serene minds, not as an imposed discipline, but as respect for something that watches with an attention that does not forgive affectation." Everyone nodded with the naturalness of those who understand that certain rules do not restrict, but describe the only honest way of doing what is being done. When they reached the Gate of Winds, a sudden icy breeze enveloped them with the precision of something that acts with intention, not at random as wind tends to act, but with that directed quality of forces that know exactly what they are assessing. Edith raised her oak staff to the sky with both hands and spoke ancient words in the voice of one who does not perform a ritual, but enacts it, a subtle distinction and an absolutely essential one. The wind intensified for a moment that seemed longer than the seconds it lasted, because there was within it something that needed to be experienced before it could be assessed, and assessment was only possible after the experience was complete. Then it ceased, with the abruptness of decisions made by forces that have no need for gradual transitions. "We have been accepted," said Edith, with a relief that did not belong to one who had doubted. It was the relief of one who had been certain, but who, out of respect for what was being tested, had waited for confirmation before accepting it. Helena felt a wave of gratitude move through her entire body, not gratitude directed at anything she could name, but that diffuse and total gratitude that rises when the path confirms that it is, in fact, the path. The Plateau of Golden Shadows and the First Vigil. The plateau revealed itself at the end of the climb with the quality of arrivals that do not announce themselves, but simply impose their presence. The sun hung low over the peaks when the terrain leveled off without warning, and the view opened ahead with the breadth of things that only exist in places high enough to escape the human scale. The tallest summit of the sacred mountains rose beyond, capped in perpetual snow that did not appear cold. It appeared luminous, as if the snow held the light rather than merely reflecting it. It was the kind of sight that is not merely aesthetic, it is a calling. Edith pointed to a narrow cleft between two crags that from any other angle would have been invisible. There lies the entrance to the chamber of the ancestors. We will arrive by nightfall tomorrow if we walk with the right disposition. Alexander studied the steep path that still stretched ahead, reckoning not with a navigator's eyes, but with that part of himself which had learned, over the course of the journey, that certain paths are measured not by the difficulty of the terrain, but by the readiness of the heart. Helena took his hand. "We are ready," she said, not as a declaration of technical preparedness, but of spiritual willingness. The five formed a spontaneous circle, sealing with silence what any oath would have diminished by attempting to name. The altitude made every breath a conscious act, that specific effort of high places which is not purely physical, but seems to demand of the body a constant negotiation with air that had become more precious by becoming more scarce. The cold of dusk descended with the speed of things that ask no permission, turning each breath into a white cloud that dissolved like ghosts too light to persist. Alexander chose a spot sheltered by boulders with the instinct of one who had learned, through years at sea, that good shelter is not the largest. It is the most specific to the danger at hand. Makeda and Amina gathered dry pine branches with the efficiency of those who have worked together long enough that no verbal coordination is needed. Helena prepared the blankets with gestures that were mechanically practical and at the same time laden with attention, as if each fold of the cloth were an act of care directed at each person it would cover. Edith struck the flint with the precision of one who has repeated that motion enough times for it to become, in itself, a form of prayer. When the first star appeared, the one that always comes before the others, as if it bore a specific responsibility to announce the night, the group gathered around the small fire with the ease they had developed across so many shared evenings that the act had become its own language. Bread and warm wine were passed around with the intentional scarcity of those who know that what they have must last, and that for that reason, every sip and every bite carries an added weight of gratitude. Conversation was minimal, not for want of things to say, but because there was in the air a quality of presence that words would have disturbed more than enriched. Helena gazed into the flames with the eyes that had learned, over the course of the journey, to see beyond the surface of fire and saw reflected in them the face of Tiphys, not as a hallucination, but as a presence, with the specific clarity of things that exist between remembrance and revelation. Alexander, watching Helena, felt the particular peace of one who is in the right place, doing the right thing with the right person. Makeda whispered prayers to the gods of her homeland with the intimacy of conversations with someone known for a lifetime. Amina murmured incantations with the concentration of one doing her work in the knowledge that it matters, even when no one but herself is able to perceive that it is being done. The night deepened, bringing with it a silence of a quality that does not exist at sea level. The silence of high places, which is denser because there is less to fill it, and for that very reason seems closer to the original silence that existed before any sound. The firmament revealed itself with an intensity that seemed inversely proportional to distance. The stars up there appeared nearer not because they were, but because there was less between them and the eyes that observed them. Helena drew her cloak tighter around her shoulders, feeling the specific weight of that moment, not the weight of exhaustion, but the sacred weight of vigils that know what they are keeping watch over. There was something in the air that came neither from the wind nor from the cold, a subtle vibration, nearly inaudible, like the sound of something waking from a very long sleep. Edith felt it too. Her eyes, which carried the same gray as Helena's, but with decades more of things seen through them, shone in the firelight with the specific quality of eyes that recognize what they are looking at. Alexander kept watch with the vigilance he had learned to distinguish from the common kind. Not the vigilance of physical danger, but that of a moment which cannot be squandered by distraction. The oak staff rested at his side, but his hands moved often to the hilt of the sword at his belt, an unconscious gesture, almost ritual, which he had noticed in himself but had not yet been able to assign meaning to. He did not yet know that this touch was the echo of a memory that was not his, but that flowed in his blood with the persistence of things that need to be remembered and that, if necessary, will wait generations for the right person to remember them. Makeda watched the shadows the fire cast upon the surrounding rocks, seeing in them shapes with the specific quality of visions that arrive at the boundary between attention and sleep, figures that exist only while they are not looked at directly, dissolving the instant the mind attempts to name them. Edith blessed the five with words that echoed through the night with the quality of true blessings, those that are spoken not for the ears of the listener, but for what lies beyond the listener. May the paths open, may the veils dissolve, and may truth reveal itself to those whose hearts remain honest before what they encounter, not what they expected to encounter, but what is truly there. The blessing settled over the group with the specific quality of true things that arrive at the right place at the right moment. The group rested, but none of them was entirely unconscious, because there are vigils the body keeps even during sleep, when what is to come is important enough that no layer of consciousness allows itself complete absence. And none of them yet knew, except perhaps Edith, who knew more than she had said, that before dawn, something would be awakened on Helena's lips that would forever change not only the purpose of their search, but the understanding of everything that had happened until then. The song between sleep and waking. The small hours arrived with a cold that asked no permission, and then Helena began to sing. The group slept in a circle around the embers, which had reduced to that specific state in which fire is no longer fire, but the memory of fire, enough to hold the darkness at a distance, insufficient to warm what the altitude cooled with growing determination. It was the suspended instant between sleep and waking, when the line separating the worlds becomes so thin it almost ceases to exist, when memories that do not belong to ordinary time find opening enough to emerge. And it was in that instant, on that specific threshold where consciousness is not entirely in either place, that Helena began. They were not words she was choosing. It was something deeper and older surfacing through her, a melodic murmur in a tongue her waking lips had never formed, verses her conscious mind could not have accessed, sounds that came not from the throat, but from that place where ancestral memories sleep until something sufficiently urgent summons them. The song flowed with the ease of things that possess every certainty in the world, and that, for that very reason, require no volume to be heard. Edith woke before the second verse had finished, not with the jolt of one dragged from sleep, with the immediate attentiveness of one who always sleeps with a part of herself standing watch over the invisible. For a moment, she lay completely still, eyes open in the darkness, simply listening. She recognized the words with the quality of recognition that precedes understanding. Not all of them, for the tongue was older still than the one her own grandmother had tried to teach her in fragments, but enough for the blood to decode what the mind was still processing. It was the song of the sleeping sword, the hymn that was not to be sung by any living soul who was not a keeper of the deepest secrets of Thule, the one that was not taught but transmitted from layer to layer of blood, through generations of women who carried the memory without fully knowing what they carried. The question that struck her with the specific speed of questions that reveal their answer the moment they are asked. How could Helena, who had never set foot in Thule, who had grown up far from Brittany, who had arrived there by a journey of sea and chance and destiny, how could she know those verses? The answer came at once, like a silent bolt of lightning. The blood remembers what the mind forgets. Typhus had planted seeds in the soul of her daughter that only now, beneath the calling of the mountains, had found conditions sufficient to germinate. The song continued, gentle but with the persistence of things that cannot be interrupted without something breaking, not in the sound, but in the one who hears. Helena sang of a blade forged in the heart of a fallen star, of the ice-cold water of the eternal north in which the sword had been tempered, of the blessing of gods who existed before time had a name by which to be called. She sang of the sword that had taught the first warriors of the north not the art of conquest, but the art of protection, and of the day when human greed had threatened to turn that gift into a curse. She sang of the most painful decision the guardians of Thule had ever made, to seal the blade in the eternal ice, in depths where neither summer nor the ambition of men could reach. And she sang of how the land itself had divided to protect that secret, Thule separating from Brittany in a geological sacrifice that was also a pact between stone and destiny. And at last, with the quality of a phrase that exists to be the final one, the blade was waiting, not for the strongest, not for the wisest, for the most worthy, the one whose heart would remain pure even before absolute power, even when that power demanded no proof of purity, even when no one was watching. Alexander woke at the sound of Helena's voice, and instinct, that specific instinct developed through years at sea of knowing what must and what must not be interrupted, told him not to move. He lay absolutely still, watching her in the faint light of the embers with the attention of one who witnesses something he knows cannot be repeated. Her eyes were closed, her face carrying that specific serenity of trance states, not absence, but presence of another quality, as if all of Helena's consciousness had turned inward and found there more than it had expected. And then he felt it, not in his ears, but in his blood, in that place beneath thought where the oldest truths settle before any conscious understanding. He felt that he knew that song, not the words, not the melody, but what lay beneath them both, the specific frequency of that hymn, the particular vibration that belonged to it as a person's own timbre belongs to their voice. It was like hearing someone call your true name in a language you did not know you knew. Makeda and Amina woke drawn by the melody with the quality of being drawn that leaves no choice, the way the sea draws those born to sail without asking them to decide. Amina recognized the nature of the phenomenon at once with the specific competence of one who had spent years learning to distinguish between different states of absence. Helena was in a trance, not in the sense of a loss of consciousness, but in the more precise sense, that of an open channel between the world of the living and the realm of those who had left the world of the living but had not, entirely, ceased to influence it. Makeda felt tears running down her face before she understood why they wept, because certain music does not need to be understood to be felt, and what that song carried within itself surpassed any possible understanding and went directly to the place where emotion exists before reason. The song spoke of sacrifice with the specificity of things that have been lived and not merely imagined. It spoke of choices that transcend the individual life. It spoke of a weapon that was not merely a blade, but a symbol of everything that leadership ought to be and rarely is. The weight of responsibility, the solitude of service, the greatness that exists only when no one is watching because it needs no witness to be real. When the final verse dissolved into the air with the slowness of things that wish to be remembered, Helena opened her eyes gradually, Her gaze carried the specific quality of waking from very deep places, not disorientation, but that gradual adjustment of one who was somewhere else and who now, with care and respect for the process, returns. She did not remember the song, only a vague dream in which she had walked across fields of ice beneath auroras that danced with the awareness of things that carry a message, while a woman's voice whispered secrets that faded at the precise moment of waking, as if they required the mind to be asleep in order to receive them. Edith watched her with an intensity that held, all at once, astonishment and recognition, and that specific emotion of those who have waited for something too long to contain it when it finally arrives. The secret she had promised to carry to the grave now needed to be spoken, because destiny, when it calls with the voice of a song that no living person should be able to sing, will not accept as its answer the silence of one who promised to keep it. And the song of the sleeping sword had been sung. What that meant was about to change everything. The revelation of the sacred sword. The silence that followed the song was not empty. It was the kind of silence that occurs when many questions arrive at once and none of them has yet found the form in which to be spoken. Edith rose with the deliberate slowness of one who knows that the next gesture will change the direction of everything that comes after. She fed the fire with dry branches until the flames returned to dance with that specific intensity of light that illuminates without blinding, that reveals without exposing. Then she sat facing the gathered group, not beside them, but before them, with the specific positioning of one who is about to transmit something and who, for that reason, needs a direct line between herself and those who receive. Her face, marked by time with the honesty of those who have never tried to erase what time writes, reflected the firelight with an almost supernatural intensity. "What you have just heard," she began, in a firm voice, touched by a reverence that was not performative, "was neither dream nor reverie. It was memory, memory that flows in the blood with the persistence of what needs to be remembered, and that, if the right person has not yet been born to remember it, waits." Helena sang what Tiphys transmitted to her without words, what the women of our lineage have kept for generations, the song of the sleeping sword of Thule. A song that should not be known by any living soul who is not a keeper of the deepest secrets. And for that very reason, it was sung, because the blood that carried it has finally arrived at the place where it needed to be heard. Alexander leaned forward with that specific attention of one who has ceased to be an observer and become a participant without having chosen the exact moment when that transition occurred. Makeda and Amina exchanged glances that contained an entire conversation about what they were feeling, a conversation neither of them needed to voice. Helena touched her own lips with her fingertips, an unconscious gesture, as if searching there for the echo of words she knew she had spoken but could not recover. Edith continued, "Long ago, when Thule and Brittany were one land, and the ice that now separates them had not yet been summoned by the sacrifice that was to come, a sword was forged, not by common smiths, but by those who knew the secrets of celestial fire, the fire that needs no wood because it does not belong to the world of metals, but to the world of intentions. The blade was tempered in the waters of the eternal north, blessed by gods who existed before any human tongue had words to name them. And its purpose was not what blades usually carry. It was not conquest, not dominion. It was teaching. To teach that true strength lies not in victory, but in protection. That leadership is not conquest, but service. And that the greatest warrior is not the one who never loses, but the one who knows when not to fight." However, Edith paused with the specific weight of pauses that give the words that follow the space they need to land completely. The time of corruption came, and the time of corruption always comes, because human nature is made of a magnificent capacity for beauty and an equally magnificent capacity for deviation. Powerful men coveted the blade not for the wisdom it represented, but for the power it conferred. And there is a fundamental difference between those two things, which is the difference between using and being used. Wars were waged, innocent blood was shed, all for possession of a weapon that should never have belonged to any who sought only glory. Then the Guardians made the most painful decision a generation can make: to seal the sword in the eternal ice, in depths where neither summer nor the ambition of men could reach, and to protect the secret further still, the land itself divided. Thule separated from Brittany, becoming an isolated island wrapped in mists that confuse navigators and cause even the most courageous to give up, not as punishment, as protection. Helena felt a shiver run down her spine with the quality of shivers that come not from cold, but from the recognition of something the body already knew before the mind could articulate it. Called? By whom? Edith smiled with the specific sadness of truths that are beautiful and painful at the same time, because frequently they are the same truth. By destiny itself, Helena. The sword is not an inert object. It possesses something that resembles will, something that recognizes blood, honor, and purpose with a precision no human instrument could equal. And when a time of crisis draws near, when Brittany stands at the edge of a collapse it cannot itself perceive because it is too deep within it, the sword calls. It calls those whose hearts remain pure even before the temptation of absolute power, even when that power demands no proof of purity in order to be exercised. Your mother knew this. That is why she left, not only out of love for Lysimachus, but because she felt the weight of the lineage, the responsibility of keeping the memory alive even far from her homeland. And now, through you, the song has returned, the calling has been made. Alexander, who had been silent with that quality of silence that is not the absence of thought but the excess of it, spoke with the careful voice of one forming a question he is not certain he wants to hear answered. If this sword is in Thule, and if Helena has been called, what is the role we play in this? Why are we here, in the sacred mountains, if destiny awaits us in the north? Edith turned to him, and there was in her gaze a quality Alexander had not seen in her before, something between compassion and that specific hardness of revelations that cannot be softened without being distorted. Because before seeking the sword, you must understand what it represents, not the legend, the truth. And that truth is kept in the chamber of the ancestors, where my son Yuda awaits. He is the keeper of memories, the high priest who protects the secrets that cannot be written down without losing what makes them essential. Secrets that can only be transmitted from heart to heart, from presence to presence. Edith continued, her voice now weighted with something she had kept long enough for the weight to become physical. But there is more. The sword does not choose only one bearer. It chooses a lineage. And if Helena was called by the song, there is another among you whose blood also carries ancient memory. Someone descended from the one who, generations ago, protected the blade before it was sealed. Someone whose soul already knows the weight of responsibility, even without yet having conscious language for that knowledge. Her eyes came to rest on Alexander with the precision of words that find their destination before they are spoken. And the silence that followed was like thunder that has not yet arrived, but that can already be felt in the joints of those who know how to read the signs of the storms that matter. Ptolemy's quest and the price of failure. Edith let the silence do the work that only silence can do. Settle what had been said in the deepest place of those who heard it, the place from which it does not leave again. Then, with a sigh that seemed to carry decades of weight waiting for the right moment to be set down, she continued. To understand the present with honesty, you must know the past in its fullness. Ptolemy, father of Lysimachus and grandfather of Helena, was not merely a merchant as the family stories tell, because family stories rarely tell everything, preferring versions that do not frighten, that do not ask too much of those who inherit them. A pause. Ptolemy was a seeker, a man driven not by gold or fame, but by the specific need to prove that the ancient legends held forgotten truths. And there are people like that in every generation, people for whom collective forgetting is not a sufficient answer to the questions they carry. Edith fed the fire as she spoke, not out of any need for light, but with that unconscious gesture of people who need movement in order to transmit what is difficult. When he was still young, he heard for the first time the Song of the Sleeping Sword, sung by an old navigator who had come from the far north. And the melody took root in his soul with the specificity of a thorn that cannot be removed without causing greater pain than that of leaving it in place. Ptolemy became obsessed with the precision of true obsessions, not those that consume and destroy, but those that organize an entire life around a purpose, making everything else either a tool or an obstacle. Edith continued, in the voice of one who describes something she both admires and mourns, because both things are true. He studied maps that appeared in no official archive. He consulted druids and priests who did not receive visits from ordinary people. He gathered fragments of stories scattered across coastal villages where northern men had passed and left traces that only those who knew what they were looking for could find. And finally, when he was just 23 years old, the same age Lysimachus would be when he met Tiphys, and that Helena was when she left her home, he gathered 6 companions as willing as himself to attempt the impossible, and they set sail for Iceland. It was said that there, in the lands where fire and ice coexist without destroying each other, there were portals to Thule, hidden passages that opened only under certain conditions. The alignment of stars, the correct invocations, and hearts prepared to face what exists beyond the veil that separates the common world from the world that common maps do not record. Helena leaned forward with that urgency of people who sense they are one step from understanding something that will change the reading of everything that came before. And did they find it? Did they reach Thule? Edith shook her head slowly, not in simple negation, but with the slowness of answers that need space to contain all their complexity. They reached Iceland, that much is true. They faced seas that tried to sink them 3 times with the persistence of forces that test before yielding passage. They crossed storms that tore away half the sails as if they were petals. They saw auroras that made the sky bleed colors that exist in no human palette. In Iceland, they found guides, men and women who knew the paths between worlds with the familiarity that develops when one is born too close to the place where the worlds touch. They were led to ice caves where ancient inscriptions shone with their own light, to hot springs where vapors whispered prophecies in a tongue that required willingness more than vocabulary to be understood, to fields of solidified lava where the ground between the worlds was thin enough to be felt through the feet before it could be grasped by the mind. But the passage to Thule did not open. The sentence arrived with the specific serenity of truths that need no drama because they already carry enough drama within themselves. They tried for 3 full moons. They performed rituals with the completeness of those who had learned the correct steps. They sang invocations with the intention of those who understand them, not merely execute them. They offered sacrifices of blood and spirit, which are the only sacrifices that true forces recognize, because the others can be imitated, but these cannot. The portal remained closed, and Ptolemy understood at last that he was not unworthy, he was premature. It was not his destiny, it was his role to plant, and there is a specific greatness in the role of planting without living to harvest, which is precisely the greatness that those who harvest rarely manage to fully recognize. Edith paused, and in her eyes there was something that was the memory of admiration. Defeated but not broken, a distinction that is not a small one. He returned to Brittany. The homeward voyage was even more brutal. They lost 2 companions in the frozen waters, the kind of loss that is never forgotten because it has a specific face and a specific name. Ptolemy arrived transformed, his hair prematurely gray, his eyes carrying things that human language cannot name because human language was built for the common world, and he had seen what exists beyond it. Alexander felt the tightening in his throat with the specific clarity of emotions that ask no permission before they arrive. And afterward, what happened when he returned? Edith smiled with that tenderness that holds within it, also sadness, because stories of sacrifice rarely end in only one of the two. He found peace, not the peace of resignation, the peace of one who understood the role that fell to him and accepted it without bitterness. He married Selene, a wise woman who loved him with the wisdom of one who loves not in spite of the scars, but the whole person who includes the scars. They had Lysimachus, and Ptolemy raised his son with 2 lessons inscribed not in words, but in actions, in gestures, in the way he lived. First, that there are destinies greater than our individual lives, seeds planted by one generation that will only flower in another, and that are, for that reason, an act of faith in a future one will not live to see. Second, that the failure to reach something sacred is not defeat if it prepares the path for those who come after. And it is only defeat for those who do not understand that sometimes the role that falls to us is not to arrive, but to make arrival possible. The fire crackled with that specific intensity of moments when the flames seem to confirm what has been said. Ptolemy died in peace, knowing that his blood carried the memory, and that one day someone of his lineage would be called again. And that day has come, Helena. When you sang the song that your grandfather heard for the first time so many decades ago, you closed the circle. Ptolemy planted, Tiphys watered, and you will harvest, not alone, but with those whom destiny has gathered around you with a precision that no human planning could ever have achieved. The secret and the price of eternity. There was in the way Edith breathed before continuing something the others recognized before they understood. What was to come was closer, more personal, more costly than anything that had been said until then. The silence she allowed to settle was different from the ones before, denser, with the quality of silence that exists immediately before revelations that come from the deepest and most vulnerable place in a person. "There is another story that needs to be told," said Edith, in a voice that was steady with the specific effort of steadiness maintained not by the absence of emotion, but in spite of it. One that is not about a distant lineage or ancestral guardians I never knew. It is about my own blood, my own sacrifice, my own choice, or my surrender to what could not have been chosen any other way. Her eyes shone with tears that had not yet decided to fall. When I first entered the chamber of the ancestors, I was 17 years old. It was the custom for young women of our lineage to be brought there at least once, to meet the guardians and understand the sacred weight our family carried, not as a burden, but as an honor that demands a response in kind. It was there that I met Gaius, the high priest who then kept the secrets. Gaius was 30 years old, Edith continued, in the voice of one who describes someone they loved with that wholeness of love that does not diminish with time, but that time transforms into something that hurts in a different way. But his eyes carried centuries, not as a metaphor, but as the reality of those who dwell in the chamber. Time flows differently there, with the slowness of a river that is too wide for its movement to be perceived. The guardians stop aging, or age so slowly that an entire human life passes for them like a single season. The energy of the place, the concentrated presence of the ancestors, the pulsing inscriptions on the walls, the very air laden with living memory, sustains them in ways that exceed what any food could offer. But there is a price. A pause with the weight of sentences that change everything that follows. Once one assumes the mantle of guardian, one cannot leave the chamber without another taking one's place. Continuity is law. And that law was not established out of cruelty. It was established because there are things that do not survive abandonment. Makeda asked in the voice of one who needs to know but is not certain she is ready for the answer. "And did you fall in love?" Edith nodded with the smile that exists only for loves that cost more than anything that could be paid. "Yes, it should not have happened. He was a guardian, I was a visitor, and the rules existed precisely to prevent what happened. But there are forces older than rules, and love, when it is true, has the specific inconvenience of not consulting circumstances before it arrives." Her voice dropped lower, more intimate, as if she were sharing something she normally reserves only for the darkness of her own mind. When our eyes met for the first time, in the light of the eternal torches of the chamber, torches that never go out because they are fed not by wax or oil, but by the presence of the ancestors, we both knew. Not what we knew, what was about to become inevitable. I visited him in secret for months, descending by the hidden trails that only the initiated know, carrying not only provisions, but the outside world he had abandoned decades before. News, seasons, stories of ordinary people living lives he had watched become memories while he remained unchanged. "Finally," said Edith, in a voice that had arrived at the point from which the telling can no longer be deferred, "Gaius made the most difficult decision a guardian can make. He asked the ancestors' permission to leave the chamber and live again as a man who ages, who feels hunger and cold, who carries the dignity and weight of ordinary time. But such permission comes at a specific and irrevocable cost. The guardian who departs must swear that his firstborn will take his place upon turning 13, the age at which the soul is formed, but still malleable enough to accept the weight of relative eternity. Gaius made the oath. He left the chamber. He married me. And we lived years of happiness with that specific intensity of happinesses that have a fixed end, because intensity and finitude are not opposites, they are accomplices." Her eyes closed for an instant, and when they opened again, there was in them that clarity which is, at the same time, strength and pain. Perhaps that is why those years were so complete, because we knew. Helena took Edith's hand with the instinctive gesture of those who recognize pain, and who, for that reason, do not ask if they may, they simply offer the touch. "And Yuda?" Edith nodded, and the tears finally found their path clear. "Our firstborn, he was born with eyes that from infancy seemed to see beyond the veil, that quality of gaze belonging to children who have already brought something with them that most people only find after much living. We raised him knowing what awaited him, preparing him with the specific tenderness of those who prepare someone for something inevitable without destroying that person's present with the weight of the future." Her voice broke and steadied itself. "When he turned 13, Gaius took him to the chamber. I accompanied them to the entrance. I could not go in. Only the outgoing guardian and the new one may be present at the ceremony of passage, which is, in itself, a protection for those who remain outside. Gaius returned alone 3 days later, old. Not the gradual aging that had stopped decades before, the sudden and total aging of one who loses what had been keeping him alive. He died 6 months later in my arms, whispering Judah's name. A long pause, and I knew, in that instant, that I had traded the time with my son for the time with my husband, and that neither choice was right or wrong. They were simply the choices that had been possible. Judah has remained there ever since, said Edith with the steadiness of those who have found a way to live with what they cannot change. In the outside world, 32 years have passed since he entered. For him, inside the chamber, perhaps 5 or 6 have gone by. His body remains as it was at 13, but his soul carries the wisdom of every guardian who came before, every memory carved into the walls, every secret that cannot be set down on parchment because it requires living consciousness to be fully what it is. She rose slowly, her gaze turning to the mountains gleaming in the full light of dawn. I visit him every week. I bring fruit, bread, wine, not because he needs those foods, but because it is my way of keeping him connected to the world of the living, of reminding him that he has a mother who loves him and who counts the days, even when the days I count are far more than the ones he experiences. Her voice carried the final steadiness of those who have decided that pain can be borne with dignity. And it is Judah who will reveal the rest of the truth to you. He knows the complete history of the sword, not only what the songs transmit, but what is written on the walls of the chamber by those who were witnesses to what they recorded. And he has a specific message for you, Alexander. A message about blood, about ancient oaths, and about the role your destiny plays in this larger design, the role your blood already knows, but that your mind has not yet been given permission to fully understand. The descent through the veils. The path to the chamber of the ancestors could not be described. It could only be walked. Edith led the group through passages that seemed to open at her presence with the precision of things that recognize who carries permission, fissures in the rock that from any other angle appeared solid, as if the mountain guarded its secrets with the intelligence of things that know a secret only protects what deserves to be protected. Tunnels covered by curtains of ivy that revealed stairways carved into the living stone with the precision of those who chiseled not only rock but intention. With each step downward, the air shifted with the gradualness of transformations that do not announce themselves. It grew denser, laden with something that was not exactly fragrance nor exactly sound, but presence. The specific quality of air in places where time has accumulated enough history for history to become part of the atmosphere. Helena felt simultaneously oppressed and embraced, the specific sensation of returning to places that exist within us before we exist within them. The tunnel walls began to reveal inscriptions with the progressiveness of revelations that respect the absorption time of those who receive them. First tentative, almost discreet, then abundant, until every available surface was covered in symbols that pulsed with their own light. It was no illusion of eyes that expected too much. The inscriptions genuinely radiated a bluish luminescence, cold and constant, with the quality of light that does not blind, but allows one to see what common light cannot reach. Alexander ran his fingers over the characters and felt an immediate vibration rise from the stone before his fingers had finished resting there, as if the symbols recognized the touch and responded to it. They were runes, but also more than runes. Some symbols belonged to alphabets that predated any language Alexander's charts could name. Tongues of peoples who had inhabited the earth before any contemporary culture had left its first mark. Makeda recognized traces she had seen in temples of the Sunlands, and the recognition was at once local and universal. "In the beginning," Amina murmured, as if completing a thought that had been forming for days, "before tongues divided and peoples separated, there was common knowledge. There was understanding shared by those who understood the mysteries." No one argued, no one needed to. They descended for a span of time that refused to be measured, because time, in that place, had lost the quality of urgency that makes it measurable. The chamber revealed itself without forewarning. The tunnel simply ended, and the space opened with the vastness of things that exist on a scale different from the human, circular, with a ceiling that rose to a point where darkness made it invisible, as if the chamber extended upward indefinitely. The floor was of stone polished to the smoothness of millennia of use, marked with concentric rings of inscriptions that radiated from a central point where an eternal flame burned, fed by neither wood nor oil, but rising directly from the stone, as if the earth offered its inner fire not as a geological phenomenon, but as a deliberate gesture. Around the perimeter, niches in the walls kept their objects: rusted swords of warriors the world had forgotten, faded cloaks of priests whose names appeared in no record, ceramic jars containing the ashes of fires extinguished centuries past. Each object was a testimony, not to the past, but to continuity, to to the specific refusal of certain things to cease existing simply because time had moved on. And at the center, standing beside the eternal flame with the naturalness of one who has inhabited that space long enough for inhabiting and being to have become the same thing, stood Judah. Helena felt the air leave her lungs before her mind had fully processed what her eyes were seeing. The appearance of a 13-year-old boy, a face not yet marked by the time that in the outside world had already accumulated 32 years since his entry. Medium height, dark eyes that carried a weight that should not exist in any child. Not the weight of sorrow, not the weight of personal experience, the weight of memory that is not his own, but that has been deposited in him by the function he serves, as a living library of everything those who came before knew, and that required a conscious vessel in order to go on existing. He wore a white tunic with bare feet on the polished stone, and in his bearing was the quality of one who has developed, through sufficient time, the capacity to be wholly present in any moment because time has ceased to be scarce. When he saw Edith, his face lit with a smile that was at once that of a child glad to see his mother, and that of a being who fully understands the larger design of what is happening and who is, for that reason, glad for reasons that go beyond merely the mother's presence. "Mother," said Judah in a voice surprisingly deep for so young a body, because the voice reflects not the body that produces it, but the soul that animates it, and Judah's soul had accumulated more than any young voice could contain. Edith ran to him and embraced him with the intensity of one carrying longing accumulated over too much time, though for Judah, inside that chamber where time flowed differently, perhaps only days had passed since her last visit. He returned the embrace with the specific tenderness of one who knows that the embrace means different things to each of the two who share it, and who honors both versions simultaneously. But his eyes remained on the group, observing with the attention that is not judgment, but assessment, the assessment of one who knows by function what lies beneath the surface of people. "You have brought those the chamber called," he said, not as a question, but as confirmation of what he already knew. He walked to Helena first, studying her with an intensity that bordered on discomfort, not the discomfort of the invasive, but that of the completely honest. Then he bowed in reverence with the precision of those who know exactly what they are honoring. Daughter of Tiphys, granddaughter of Ptolemy, heir of the lineage that never forgot even when it believed it had forgotten. Welcome to the heart of memory. He turned then to Alexander with a shift in the quality of attention that everyone in the space perceived without being able to fully describe. It was as if the boy who was not a boy had changed instruments, changed register, changed his mode of seeing. He walked in a slow circle around the captain with the deliberateness of one assessing not the surface, but what lies beneath all surfaces. Then he stopped, raised his staff, and touched Alexander's chest lightly, over the heart, with the surgical precision of one who knows exactly where what he is looking for can be found. The reaction was immediate and undeniable. Alexander stepped back as if he had received something physical, eyes wide, his breath leaving and not immediately returning. He saw, not with his eyes, but with that other sense that has no name yet that every person possesses and that most spend their entire lives ignoring. A flash of memory that was not his, a man in ancient armor, standing on a snow-covered field that gleamed with the specific whiteness of things that exist before any footstep has marked them, holding a sword that radiated a light that did not come from the sun because it had no need of the sun. The man had his face, not exactly, but with the resemblance that exists between generations, the resemblance that time distorts slightly but does not erase because it is made of bone and blood and something deeper than both. The flash disappeared with the abruptness of visions that know they have already done what they came to do. Judah smiled, a sad, knowing smile, laden with a compassion that exists only in those who fully understand the weight of what the other has just received. "Yes," he said softly. the blood remembers. And you, Alexander, carry in your veins the memory of the last one to touch the sword before it was sealed. The one who swore an oath to protect the secret, even should it cost his lineage the forgetting. But forgetting is never complete. It is only waiting. And now the circle closes. The oath before the eternal flame. Yuda walked to the center of the chamber with the naturalness of one who inhabits that space, with the completeness of those who have never been anything other than guardians. The eternal flame danced at his side with the quality of presence that goes beyond the physical. That fire which had no visible fuel, which emerged from the stone as if the earth had decided at that specific point in the world to permanently offer something of its interior, as a sign that certain things do not go out simply because the outside world changes. "Before you depart," said Yuda in a voice that carried the accumulated weight of every oath he had witnessed in that space across decades. His body had not aged to show. "You must fully understand the weight of what you accept, not so that you turn back, but so that, if you proceed, it is with your eyes open." The chamber amplified the words with the resonant quality of truths in spaces built to contain them. This is not an adventure where glory awaits you at the end. It is not a quest where material treasures will be your reward. It is a rite of passage in which you will be tested to the limit of what you can bear, and perhaps beyond. The journey to Thule has already destroyed men stronger than you. And even if you reach the island, what you find there will make you wish you had prepared not the body, but the soul. Helena rose, and in the gesture was a quality that exceeded individual decision. It was as if the entire lineage rose through her. She approached the flame with steps that did not hesitate, not because there was no fear, but because fear and purpose coexisted without either being able to cancel the other. "I understand the risks," she said, in a voice that had arrived at a point of steadiness that was not the absence of vulnerability, but coexistence with it. "But if my blood calls to me through a song I did not know I knew, if the melody flowed through me without my choosing it, then I cannot turn away, because to turn away would be to betray not only destiny, but all who came before and who fulfilled their parts without fully knowing whether the next part would be fulfilled." She extended her hand over the flame. The fire did not burn her. It enveloped her fingers with the specific gentleness of forces that recognize what belongs to them. As the recognition of a quality of blood the flame had waited generations to touch. Alexander stepped forward beside Helena, and in the closeness of the two was something that went beyond the bond of marriage and reached that other kind of bond, the bond of people destined to do together something that neither of them could do alone. "I did not know," he said, with the specific honesty of confessions that cost something and that, for that reason, carry real weight. "I thought myself only a navigator, a man of the sea, perhaps a good captain, but not remarkable in the sense that this place uses the word." He looked at the flame, then at Yuda, then at Helena. "Now I am told I carry the blood of an ancient guardian, that my very name is the echo of an oath made before my great-grandfather was born. I do not know whether I am worthy of such a legacy. No one knows that about themselves before the legacy finds them." The steadiness grew gradually, like light that brightens without one being able to identify the exact moment it became brighter. "But I know this. Helena goes to Thule, and I go at her side, not because destiny compels me, because I choose. And if there are trials, we will face them together. And if there is a choice to be made by the sword, let it choose based on who each of us truly is, not on who we wish to appear to be." He extended his hand. The flame received him with the same recognition it had given Helena, not identical but complementary, like the same language spoken in different voices. Makeda stepped forward with the determination of those who have reached a point of sufficient maturity to understand that a larger purpose is more real and more urgent than immediate comfort. "I left my father, I left my land, with the stated reason of seeking the lights of the north. But the truth is that I was seeking something I did not know how to name. And now I know it was this: proof that just leadership is not merely a philosophical ideal, but a concrete possibility. That there exists a way of choosing who governs that does not depend solely on power or birth. Amina positioned herself beside her without hesitation, with the precision of those who know that certain stances are taken not after deliberation but by nature. And where the princess goes, I go, but I also go of my own will, for there is wisdom that can only be found at the outermost edge of journeys, and I came to find it. Yuda asked the four to kneel around the eternal flame, and in the gesture of the staff touching each of their heads was something that was not ceremony, but transference, as if through that touch, something existing in the accumulated consciousness of the chamber found a temporary vessel in the four souls who were about to depart. You will swear to seek the sleeping sword not for personal gain, but in service, to the past that kept it and to the future that will need it. You will swear to face the trials with honesty, not perfection, because the sword does not seek the perfect, it seeks the honest. And you will swear to accept the sword's choice, whatever it may be, even if it is not what you would have wished. One by one, they spoke the oath with the seriousness of things that are said only once, and that, for that reason, must be entirely true in the fraction of a second in which they are spoken. When the last oath ended, the flame grew, not dramatically, but with that silent intensity of confirmations that need no display to be real. And everyone felt that something had changed in the air of the chamber, as if the universe had acknowledged receipt of what had been pledged. Yuda raised them with the gesture of one who has completed what he came to do and who can therefore now offer what comes after fulfillment. He walked to the niches in the walls with the familiarity of one who knows each object there by name and by story. He withdrew a small glass vial containing a silver liquid that radiated its own light with the discreet intensity of things that need no advertisement. Water from the eternal spring, from the depths of this chamber. You will drink only when you are truly lost, and truly lost means when neither stars nor instinct can guide you, not when the path is simply difficult. One sip each, and the way will reveal itself, not completely, but enough for the next step. He handed it to Helena. From another niche, a map on ancient hide bearing symbols that seemed to move not because they did, but because the mind that received them became sufficiently open to perceive what had always been there. It will show paths that common maps do not show, but only if you trust it completely, without questioning routes that appear impossible. Impossible is a human category. The map does not belong to that category. He handed it to Alexander. For Makeda, a polished obsidian stone that carried the memory of a sacred volcano, that specific calm of things that survived the eruption and that, for that reason, no longer fear any heat. For Amina, an amber necklace holding an insect preserved for ages. It reminds you that time does not destroy everything. Some things cross the ages not because they are invulnerable, but because they carry something that deserves to be carried across. Each gift was a tool, not magical in the sense of external miracle, but in the more precise sense, instruments that work when used by those who understand what they were made for. The revelation of the walls and the weight of blood. Yuda gestured for everyone to sit on the chamber floor in a circle around the eternal flame, and everyone obeyed with the naturalness that emerges when a space and the being who inhabits it possess an authority that needs no declaration to be felt. Once they were settled, he raised his staff and touched the nearest wall. The inscriptions responded with the immediacy of things that had been waiting for exactly that touch, glowing with increasing intensity, beginning to move not physically, but with the quality of movement that exists in shadows cast by light that comes from within the walls themselves. They formed images with the narrative precision of one who tells a story that has been told 1,000 times and has therefore found its essential form. The forge, where there were no human smiths, only pure light taking the shape of a blade by the force of concentrated intention. The frozen waters of the north, where the sword had been plunged and from which it emerged not merely tempered, but imbued with a purpose that transcended the metal, as if the water had deposited in the blade what it had gathered from all the memories at the bottom of the ocean. The noble warriors who had wielded it not to conquer, but to defend. And finally, with the inevitability of scenes that time has preserved because they must be witnessed by those who come after. The earth tearing apart, Thule separating from Brittany while the sword was carried to the frozen depths, sealed in a coffer of eternal ice that was not punishment, but custody. The sleeping sword, Iuda, began in a voice that echoed through the chamber as if multiplied by a presence that was everywhere at once, is not a weapon in the sense that the common world understands weapons, an object that transfers force from the one who carries it to the one it strikes. It was forged before kingdoms existed, before human ambition had learned to transform power into tyranny. And there is specific wisdom in creating something in a time before corruption, because the intention of the time of creation is inscribed in the thing created forever, deeper than any subsequent use can reach. The images on the walls continued to move, narrating as Iuda narrated, each completing what the other could not express alone. Just kings wielded it for centuries, and their reigns were marked by a prosperity that was not the result of conquest, but of alignment between the leader's purpose and what the people needed. But the time of corruption came, because the time of corruption always comes, and it comes not from without, but from within, in that specific moment when power ceases to be a tool and becomes the identity of the one who wields it. The images shifted with the abruptness of history when it turns a chapter. Brutal battles, rivers of blood, cities in flames that were the result not of war between equals, but of the desire to possess something that cannot be possessed without ceasing to be what it is. When greed threatened to defile the blade, Iuda continued, the last guardians made a decision that was not a solution. It was a postponement of indeterminate duration and immediate cost. There was a council between the sages of Thule and the druids of Brittany, and that those two groups sat together is, in itself, proof that the urgency was real. They agreed that the sword needed to be removed from human reach until a time came when humanity was ready again, or until the need was so extreme that the risk of revealing it was lesser than the risk of keeping it hidden. The flame at the center of the chamber flickered, not with wind, which did not exist there, but with something equivalent. A final guardian was chosen, a warrior of noble lineage but humble of heart, with that specific combination of qualities that is so rare that when it appears, it cannot be squandered. He carried the sword to the depths of Thule, witnessed its sealing, and made an oath. His lineage would consciously forget, because conscious forgetting is more solid than any actively guarded secret, but would remember in the blood. And when the time came, a descendant of his would return, guided not by ambition, but by necessity, and the sword would recognize the blood before the mind could process the recognition. Iuda turned to Alexander with a gaze that had become, over the course of the telling, less outward and more inward, as if he were seeing not the Alexander who stood there, but the Alexander who was. That guardian's name was Alexandros, the same name you carry, not by accident, but by unconscious memory that has flowed through your family for generations with the persistence of something that needs to be remembered, and that finds its way even when no one is actively remembering. His voice held the quality of revelations that are precise because they have been carefully kept. Your parents named you so without fully knowing why, only with that sense that it was the right name, which is frequently the sense of something coming from deeper than any reason the conscious mind can articulate. Alexandros kept his oath. He watched the sword be sealed. He watched the land divide. He returned to Brittany, lived, had children and grandchildren, died in peace, but never forgot completely, and the lineage, across the centuries, preserved fragments. Makeda leaned forward with the urgency of one who needs the story to move ahead. Why now? Why did Helena sing the song now, and why is Alexander here? Judah smiled with the specific satisfaction of a teacher before the right question at the right moment. Because Brittany stands at the edge of a collapse, it cannot itself perceive because it is too deep within it. I see, through the veils that connect this place to other sacred places, weak kings fighting for power, nobles betraying nobles, a people bearing the weight of wars without meaning. Brittany needs a true leader, not a conqueror, but a unifier. And such a leader cannot be chosen by men, because men are corruptible. He must be chosen by the sleeping sword itself, which knows the heart and cannot be deceived by words or appearances. The journey that awaits you is not easy, said Judah, and in his voice was the seriousness of one who does not wish to frighten, but refuses to lie for the sake of comfort. You will need to travel to Thule, the true Thule, not the Iceland where Ptolemy reached the threshold but did not cross it, but the island that reveals itself only to those who possess the correct keys. And the keys are not objects, they are qualities of being that one either has or does not have, and that cannot be feigned before what guards the portal. The images on the walls had gone still, as if they had finished what they had to narrate and now simply waited. You will face physical dangers from the frozen sea and the storms of the north, and those are the lesser dangers, but also spiritual trials that will test you to the very bones of your souls, because the sword does not test what we do when we are being watched. It tests what we do when there is no witness, when only we know the difference between what we chose and what we could have chosen. A final pause. And when you find the sleeping sword, if you find it, you will face the choice that cannot be prepared for. It will choose one of you to be its bearer. The one who will return to Brittany, recognized not by hereditary right or by conquest, but by the recognition of the sword itself. And that choice may save Brittany, or curse it forever, depending on a single thing: the purity of the heart of whoever is chosen in the moment the choice is made. The silence that followed carried the weight of the mountains above them, not oppressive, but real, with all the reality of things that cannot be ignored without consequence. The departure and the frozen horizon. Judah led them back through the tunnel, and this time the passage was different. Not because the path had changed, but because those who walked it had changed, and the path feels the difference. The inscriptions on the walls shone with the same bluish luminescence, but there was in them now a quality that had not existed before, or that had existed and had not been perceived. Something resembling approval, that specific radiance of things that recognize that what they were waiting for has come to pass. Edith walked beside Judah, and between the two of them was the specific language of those who have shared so much silence that silence has become the most complete mode of communication they possess. When they emerged into daylight, the sun was high, far beyond where it should have been given the time they believed had passed inside the chamber, confirming with the precision of a scientific experiment what Edith had said about time flowing differently within. None of the four tried to calculate the discrepancy. They had reached the point of the journey where certain things are better honored by acceptance than by arithmetic. At the entrance, Judah stopped. He embraced Edith with the embrace of those who know that for each of them that moment carries a different weight. For her, a week of intense separation. For him, perhaps 2 days of chamber. He returned it with the tenderness of those who understand both scales of time and choose to honor them both. When they separated, his eyes found the group with the quality of a final gaze that is not a farewell, but ascending, like the last adjustment of bearing before a launch. "When you return," he said, in a voice that held the steadiness of things spoken once because they need only be said once, "come here first, not as protocol, as necessity." The sword will need to be kept in the chamber until the right moment to present it to Brittany arrives, and I will need to know." Helena embraced Judah impulsively, with the kind of embrace that asks no permission, because it emerges from a recognition that precedes any consideration of protocol. "Thank you," she said, in the voice of one who speaks one word and means 10, "for keeping what needs to be kept, for revealing what needs to be revealed, for trusting us with the weight of both." Judah returned the embrace with the specific vulnerability of children who carry an adult's burden and who, when held, remember briefly that they are both things at once. "May the ancestors protect you," he said when they parted. "And remember, the sword does not choose the strongest, nor the wisest, nor the purest. It chooses the most necessary, the one whose heart, even with all its human failings, serves the greater purpose at the precise moment." He turned and disappeared back into the tunnel with the naturalness of things that belong to the place they returned to. The descent from the mountain happened in a silence that was not heavy, but full. Each of the five absorbed in processing, in integrating, in discovering how to carry what they had received inside the chamber without the weight distorting their steps. Edith guided the path back to Amesbury with the familiarity of one who had walked that trail more times than she could count, and the village received them with the growing reverence of communities that understand, even without having been present, that something fundamental has happened to those who return. That evening, there was a smaller, more intimate gathering, not the celebration of reunion, but the celebration of the departure that was drawing near. Helena sat beside Edith, holding her hand with the presence of one who knows that what is being held is not the hand. It is the shared time that will not repeat itself exactly this way. "Will you stay here?" she asked. Edith nodded with the serenity of those who have made peace with the role that fell to them. "My place is here, tending the land, visiting my son, preserving the traditions, and when you return, everything will be as you left it, and I will be here as I have always been." A pause. "It was all worth it, Helena. The separation from Tiphys. Judah, sacrifice, all of it, because you arrived." Alexander gathered Makeda and Amina with the seriousness of a captain that is, at once, a summons and a consultation. "Soon we return to the ships, preparations for a long journey north, further north than any of us has sailed. Frozen waters, storms that appear on no map, perhaps months without sighting land. There is still time to step back, and no one who does will be any less for what they were." Makeda did not answer immediately. She let the silence last long enough to show that she had genuinely considered it, and then said, "Captain Alexander, we came to witness the extraordinary. This," she said, with a gesture that encompassed not only the space around them, but everything they had lived since Concarneau, "is more extraordinary than any aurora or any ice. It is purpose, it is destiny. We go forward." Amina nodded with the specific brevity of those who made the decision long enough ago for it to have become simple. Together, as always. Alexander looked at them both with that quiet pride of those who have led well enough that they no longer need to lead, only witness what the journey has built in the people who made it together. The following morning, before dawn had yet painted the sky, Edith summoned Amesbury. The village answered the call with the speed of communities that understand the difference between imposed urgency and true urgency, because this was true, and everyone felt it. The eldest of the elders, the one whose white beard had witnessed enough generations to recognize the moments that matter, raised his staff with the quiet authority of those who need no volume to be heard. "We will support these travelers with everything this village's land can offer," he said, and in the phrase was the nature of a decree that waits for no vote, because it already contains everyone's. Provisions were brought with the specific generosity of communities that understand that those who depart carry not only food, but the effort of those who produced it. Fur garments for the cold of the north, oil for the torches that would need warmth. Alexander recognized, in that moment of collective generosity, the chance to give something in return with the only thing he possessed in abundance: men accustomed to physical labor and the discipline of the sea. He offered his sailors for the root harvest that needed to be completed before the good weather ended. And the offer was received not as a commercial exchange, but as the gesture it was: an acknowledgement that the community which had received them deserved more than verbal gratitude. And so, through the days that preceded the departure, sailors and villagers worked side by side in the fields of Amesbury, with the specific camaraderie that emerges when very different people discover a common language in shared physical effort: the sun, the earth, the weariness that is the same in everybody regardless of origin or destiny. The harvest celebration took place with the completeness of rituals that honor not only what was gathered, but what was lived throughout the season that made the harvest possible. Elders and sailors, princesses and guardians, navigators and farmers, all gathered around the central bonfire of Amesbury, each carrying something different in their hearts, yet sharing that deeper layer where differences cease to matter: the gratitude of being alive, of being present, of having arrived at that moment without having given up before what mattered could happen. And when the last embers of that celebration were extinguished by the small hours, the ships were already ready. The North was waiting, with its eternal ice, its merciless storms, its island hidden in mists that confused navigators and broke the resolve of those who did not carry the right key. And the key, they had discovered, was not an object. It was blood. It was purpose. It was that specific quality of heart that remains honest before absolute power, even when no one is watching. The Alethea and the moonlit oasis waited in the waters of Concarneau, faithful as promises kept. And the coldest and most truthful journey of all was about to begin. In the next episode, when the Alethea cut through the first frozen waters of the absolute north, none of the navigators could have predicted what the storms that followed would do, not only to the sails and the hulls, but to everything each of them had believed solid enough to withstand what the northern sea holds in reserve for those who dare to go beyond where the maps end. The island of Thule does not reveal itself, it tests. And the tests that await Helena, Alexander, Makeda, and Amina will be not of strength nor of courage in any sense any of them has known, but of that other kind of proof that only true journeys impose. The proof of what happens when what one fears most is not the storm outside, but what the storm reveals about who one is within. The sleeping sword waits in the eternal ice with the patience of things that exist before time, and that, for that reason, are in no hurry, only exacting. And that standard, when it is finally revealed, will change not only the destiny of Brittany, but that of every soul who has pushed the sails of destiny this far.